Welcome to the Ocean Race Show. Leg 2 got underway in beautiful, if slightly fickle conditions. 5 Imoccas off on their 4,600 nautical mile race to Cape Town and leaving in style from Cabo Verde. But before we take a look at the start and what's happening out in the racecourse, let's wind the clock further back. I'm travelling at the moment after our Leg 2 departure coverage back to Spain for the race headquarters, and I've got a little chance to pop into home and have a little bit of a chance to relax. Did our sailors get the same opportunity between legs? Did they get a chance to sample the warmth and the nightlife of Mindelo? Well, no, of course not. That would have been far too easy.
So we're in Cape Verde and it's classed as a pit stop rather than a full stopover, and that means that no shore crew are allowed to work on the boat. So basically the sailors that have competed in Leg 1 have to do any maintenance work, and given the nature of Leg 1 was pretty brutal, we have a very long job list.
Abby Ehler on board Team Holston PRB, the winning boat from the last leg, and it turns out that everybody had an incredibly long job list to deal with by the time they came into port. Annie Lush, the sailor on board Gullo Environment Team Europe for Leg 1, gave us an update.
This pit stop, this isn't that standard in the ocean race, and perhaps at the time it looked like a pit stop after only being at sea for 6 days, mostly in the Med, would be fine. Of course, that wasn't the reality. It was a very windy leg. Even on the downwind, we were normally seeing over 25 knots. We were going over 25 knots most of the time. So I think for the Imoccas, it was particularly hard. And actually, when we arrived in Cabo Verde, it's not only the fixing, for the Imocca especially, it's the amount of checking you have to do. So the first day we arrived, all we did was check that there wasn't more damage, to the structure, to the foils, to the electronics, to things that we really need on board to be safe, which, to be honest, on a Volvo 65, I don't think you'd have worried about so much. So there was a full day of checking just to see what else there was before we even got into all the repairs that we had to do.
This pit stop wasn't just about repairing the boat so that it's fast. This is also about making sure it's safe enough for whatever comes.
It's a concern because I'm taking the winches apart, and I'm conscious that I'm really tired from the leg. And you make a mistake in this, and you could kill someone. It's just like, I don't know. It's just got to be super careful.
Now, after all this hard work of making your boat fast, making it safe and reliable, you've still got to get to the start now. Now, at least the conditions were on their side. It was sunshine, it was flat water, and it wasn't too physically demanding. But leave it to our sailors to make it competitive.
30 seconds. Okay, I go. 40 meters.
Gullo Environment Team Europe were pushing to get the ideal start, timing their acceleration well. It paid off with a perfect start for Robert Stanjek. So as Gullo Environment Team Europe took the lead, others fought among themselves for second, leaving Robert Stanjek with room to stretch out.
Get away, 60 meters. Okay, coming up. I need the foresail.
The first 20 minutes super hectic, and then it gets a bit more easy.
Good concentration, so we executed exactly like we wanted it. Bow forward. The pin was a little bit favored. The crew did 2 very good mark roundings, so I'm happy. And now this little private gust here, we take it.
But as the sun set and the boats began to round the western edges of the island, the winds went light and the speed slowed, conditions these boats haven't seen for a while.
Well, the first leg actually had a little bit of drifting at the beginning, but this one's expected to last a bit longer. But no, I mean, it's as expected. Everyone's pointing different directions with different winds, and we're trying to get southeast at the moment. So I mean, we got 2 boats just one side of us, another boat just to the other side of us, and one just in front of us. So it's all fairly tight, and it's going to be something like this all night long, I think. Well, I mean, the main thing is to keep steerage, so you're always pointing in the right direction, which is sometimes easier said than done, because you've got numbers which are calculated, but the wind's spinning around. You can't really rely on them. So yeah, just stay nimble and stay calm.
Everyone was second-guessing their tactics as differences in strategy started to show.
So we've got 11 here, Biotherm, Malaysia, not the same sails.
Kevin Escoffier, onboard Team Holcim PRB, referring to the spinnakers and the difference in sails. This is a bit of an interesting tactic here. All of our sailors get to choose what sails they take for their IMOCAs. And some of them have taken a downwind spinnaker, an A2, if you like. And it was great for the forecast at the moment. Light winds, tricky, patchy conditions and downwind. It's going to be useless by the time the breeze does arrive and we're blasting into Cape Town. But for the moment, for those teams that elected to get this sail ready for this leg and to set it up at the start line, like Biotherm, for example, they're very pleased they did.
Yes, it was a choice before the starting line to use the kite because it's a VMG, so it's downwind between the two islands, Santo Antão and São Vicente. And yes, we believe that it was a good sail, and actually it was, because we are in front of the other.
For all our teams, they will need to get used to gaining miles and seeing their rivals overtake them again, as the game of cat and mouse will stretch to the doldrums and beyond.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Keeping your energy up, keeping your spirits high, so important because, of course, at night, you don't just get to switch off and go to sleep. What does happen on an IMOCA at night? How hard is it that they push? Well, let's step on board 11th Hour Racing Team and check in with Justine Matreau.
A bit too close with all team at the moment, my taste, but it's gonna be okay.
So he's basically sailed us up, and now he's trying to veer away and push back through. That's the header here. Now we can't veer away.
Simon Fisher and Justine Matreau don't want to give up an inch, even though there are plenty of miles left to race. Right at this moment, their focus was on the metres between them and Team Holcim PRB just to windward. A quick adjustment to the sheet lead for the headsail, back outside with the torch to check it all over. Even with all the technology that we're seeing on the IMOCAs, sometimes in this race the sailing is still at its purest form. Easing the sheets, letting the sail fill and then checking the telltales to make sure it's all working. And for Justine Matreau on the helm, taking her eyes off the competition is unthinkable. This battle of give and take, patience and calm nerves played out over the many miles from Cabo Verde. The boats pushing south, each looking for a chance to get further west and away from the effects of the high mountains of the islands and the risk of parking up. Biotherm led the fleet with Guyot Environment Team Europe at the back, but Robert Stanjek was able to close the gap to Team Milizia during the night.
We crawled ourselves back, we made contact with the fleet again, which is super. It's very surprising. It's probably less than a mile, so we positioned ourselves windward of them. Sepp was basically, it was his plan to jibe. I think now we jibed a little bit quicker than scheduled, but it's a very nice position, controlling position, and I'm very happy to compare ourselves to another boat live. This is very good. Only looking at the numbers is very difficult. So I'm very, very happy to have a boat next to us and start sailing live.
As the sun came up, the story was still the same. Fight for everything you could find, even if it was just a tiny game in the patchy winds. Conditions that meant constant sail changes and re-trimming to the boat.
Well left of the forecast, which has given us the opportunity to get on the starboard a little bit early. It's got to be a little bit mindful if it goes back. We might be able, you can just see the island down there, the leeward. We might be able to use a bit of acceleration off of that. And yeah, as the trade winds build, we want to start getting west. We're just got to make sure we don't sort of go too early. So still thinking about going back if we get a good shift, just to sort of consolidate. But plenty going on. It's good.
And while you're enjoying the nature that's out there on the racecourse, you're also trying to make strategic gains. And everything that we're seeing the boats doing at the moment is all about this bigger challenge of getting round the doldrums on their way to Cape Town. That means getting west. So you can see this reflected in the tracker and you can see the decisions that they've had to make. So what I've done here is I've taken a little bit of the tracker And I've highlighted the course of Guyot Environment Team Europe. And you can see that they're zigzagging a little bit. What they're trying to do is they're trying to move in this direction. They're trying to go south-west. South because that's where Cape Town is, and west because that will take them round the doldrums. But which one do you want to do? You can't do southwest because the wind isn't quite coming from the right angle. You have to go either south or you have to go west and kind of bounce between them. How do you know when is the right time to be on what jibe? Well, take a look at the decisions they've made. If we go back to the top, there's a point where their course was south, and then they started to get bent away from that and started to sail a little bit more towards the southeast as the wind shifted around and they got lifted. Well, what do you do when that course doesn't become good anymore? Well, you jibe over. And there we can see that jibe, that twist in that green track. Then as they continue down that route, they then get lifted again. The wind then changes angle and they get pulled away and heading more directly west. And they don't really want to do that. Well, so they jibe again, get going south again. And then slowly the breeze starts lifting them on. And if they'd carried on going, they would then be going away from where they're trying to get to. So then they jibe again. And choosing these little moments, the right times to be on which jibe, means that their course, certainly for Guyot Environment Team Europe, has been pretty effective over the last few hours. And for all of our boats, it's going to be crucial to decide precisely when the breeze is signalling to you, this is a good time to jibe. When you are in a tactical battle like this, you want to see your choices reflected in the other boats too. You want to know everyone thinks it's a good time to jibe. So if someone doesn't jibe with you, it's a worry.
Does he jibe?
Ouais, Reese, Charlie. Ouais, Charlie. Ouais, Charlie. Charlie didn't jibe.
C'est bon ça. Really good. Jibe was good, I think. Ça fait plaisir. Tout bon, comme dirait Automne.
This game of picking just the right point to jibe on and lining yourself up westward is going to be crucial to get ourselves smoothly across the doldrums and into Cape Town. A cat and mouse game for our sailors, finding the best in the breeze and trying to find their best route round the doldrums. The physical challenge of this leg hasn't yet arrived, but the mental game is certainly on.